It's Phumlani M. Majosi, the host of the Phumlani Majosi Show and the author of a new book, Lessons from Past Heroes. I hope you do have your copy. Remember, you can get it on amazon.co.za or Take a Lot, or you can go to a bookstore near you to get yourself a copy. It's my last day in Prague, the Czech Republic. It's a beautiful, sunny, cold morning as I'm speaking to you right now. So this weekend, I will be back in South Africa. I want to talk about Mr. Herman Mashaba. What a great man who has done amazing things for South Africa. What an inspiring story the man has. Really, he is, I believe, the most inspirational, the most inspiring political figure in South Africa at the moment. He has a remarkable story, folks, and that's why I do write about him in my book. I have an entire segment about Mr. Herman Mashaba, right? How he rose from the very tough times of the apartheid system, pursued business as a black man, and guess what? He managed to be successful. He is, when I say we need to learn from such people who really emerged out of difficult times to make success of their lives. That is what I mean. And Herman Mashaba is one of those people, folks. He is one of those people. He's in politics now, as we all do know, of course. My concern with him is that he is very much aligning himself with communists, right? Communists, socialists who are race obsessed, who are divisive in South Africa. He is aligning himself with them. And I don't think that is helpful. I do not think that is helpful for South Africans. Not helpful, especially for Black people, right? Who face enormous challenges, folks. They are the ones mostly affected by the highest unemployment rate. They have the highest unemployment rate. They have the highest rate of poverty. The educational outcomes in Black communities is very bad. Broken families, the rampant crime in Black communities. There is a serious crisis in the Black community, right? So there's much work to be done, folks. And people like Herman Mashaba, they are supposed to be the leaders to address these issues, right? They are supposed to be driving the narrative, right? To say, look, here are the challenges we face, right? The challenges they have very little to do with white people at this point, right? They have to do with the incompetence in governance. They have to do with bad policy, right? We've pursued as a society. They have to do with the fact that as a people, as private citizens, we have for a very long time been voting for people who have been destructive. They have been destructive to the country. For many times we've been doing that, voting for people who are destructive to the country. And my view is that if I were Herman Mashaba, I would stick on the message, right, and talk about the dire educational outcomes in South Africa, and talk about the very high unemployment rates, right, and talk about the broken families, folks. Because I mean, if you have about 32% of Black kids are growing up with their fathers, right? You know, it's only about 32% of kids who are growing up with their fathers. That's a disaster, folks. The family is broken, and we all know that the family is the foundation, of everything in our society. If we want to succeed, we need to get the family right. It's not just a political, conservative, whatever issue. It's a very fundamental, big issue that we have to address, right? We have all these crime problems, partly because not only that is because of the weak law enforcement. It's also because many of young people, we have many people who come from broken families, and that is a problem, right? The economy, jobs, that should be the focus, right? Crime, it's a serious problem. I like Herman Mashaba when he speaks about crime, because I've posted on social media about this. I like him because he hates criminals, right? He hates criminals. And that is the leader South Africa needs. A leader who cannot tolerate crime in the country, who wants to punish it, right? So look, I just think that Herman Mashaba, if I were Herman Mashaba, I would focus on the message, right? And he's got the profile, folks, the most inspiring um, uh, politician at the moment. I think it is him, right? His profile alone, it speaks for itself, right? So if I were him, I would focus on, um, you know, being this a person who presents a new chapter for South Africa, right? Speak about the importance of entrepreneurship. Focus on how do we get young people really to be productive in the economy. You cannot get young black people to be productive in the economy if you pass all kinds of regulations that suppress market productivity. Productivity. You can't, folks. You've got to create an area or a society where young people they can push through to improve, their lives. Um, you've got to create an environment where you invest in young people, in education. Um, you know, put investment in there. And it's not only about money, it's about a culture of education. Getting parents involved in kids' education. So that is very important, folks. So if he were to focus on that message, to align himself with radical black nationalists who are divisive, who really want to pursue a race-based approach to South Africa. That's not going to help us. It isn't going to help black people um, who, I mean, whenever they are surveyed, they are clear black people what they want. They talk about jobs, they talk about safety, they talk about the end to state corruption. Um, they complain that the bridges, the roads are not functioning in their communities. They don't talk about white people, this, the apartheid system. They don't hear that from them, right? You are not going to go to the township and interview people, and they tell you that, well, the National Party, FW declared, did this and that. You're not going to hear that from black people, right? In the rural areas, right? In townships. Yeah, we are not going to hear it. They will tell you about what they live daily, right? What kind of life they live daily, right? They lose their relatives from crime. I have lost relatives. I have a gun pointed my way in Johannesburg a few times. Yes, yes, I have had a gun pointed my way in Johannesburg a few times, folks. Many of us have been victims of crime. That is where Herman Mashaba should focus on. And South Africans, by the way, they do like somebody who wants to take criminals head on. They do like somebody like that. Just look at Tlatlam Kwanazi in my in my home province, KwaZulu Natal. He's being celebrated. Why? Because he is taking criminals head on. That's what he's doing, Mr. Mkwanazi there in my home province, Natal. He is fighting criminals. He is taking them head on. So if Mr. Mashaba were to focus on those things, really he would be liked across all race groups. In fact, even the EFF, these far left racist mobs, they would really hear what he's saying because he's got the message, he's got the right profile. He does have the experience in terms of handling very difficult situations. So he really is supposed to be. My view is that Mr. Mashaba is supposed to be taking over after the ANC. The NC is on its way out, folks. They have been declining since 2003, 2004. They've been going down. It's been a long-term decline in terms of vote share or support. They are on the decline, which is what you saw even in this past election. Their vote declining significantly. They lost their majority. They are on their way out. And I believe that a man like Mr. Herman Mashaba should have been the man or should be the man who takes over, right? If I were him, I would focus on running on getting Gauteng. Gauteng is the most prominent, most wealthy, is the wealthiest province in the country, the driver of our economy. If I were him, I would focus on taking over Gauteng as the premier, right? Forget about anything else. As the premier of Gauteng, between now and the time when the ANC is out, right? tried to get into run to be the Premier of Gauteng. He's from Gauteng, so the province knows him quite well. People know his success. So focus on Gauteng, get to govern Gauteng. It's possible. He's from there and he's well known there. He's most known there in Gauteng. Um, and take over Gauteng, run it, and show people how to run. Make it some sort of evidence, right? Do it right. Run Gauteng right. We know how to do that. Address all the socio-economic challenges of Gauteng. And then, he emerges as somebody who really was different, ran a province that was troubled and made it one of the, very safe places in the world. Imagine he were to do that, right? When he's the Premier of Gauteng. And then after that, guess what? He makes the case nationally and says, look, you know me, I've run the country. I've run, sorry, the province of Gauteng. I've done very well. I am the man to move South Africa forward, right? He would make that case very strongly. I mean, it should be a very strong case. And then, and at that time, there will be many groups, left and right, center, and so on, with the ANC having declined. Out of that, there has to be someone who looks like he could unite the country, right? In fact, using that approach, he would take all kinds of voters, right? Voters in the Indian community, in the white community, um, across all the provinces, folks, townships, suburbs, uh, the countryside. So he could really make an impact, Mr. Mashaba, um, if he were to focus on this approach I am talking about. Stay away from communists and these radical, racists. Stay away from them. They don't represent what people on the ground, when they are surveyed, say. Even the ENCA, just before the election, they went to my province, KwaZulu-Natal, and asked people what mattered to you, right? What matters to you? That's what they asked people, ENCA, that side of my province in KwaZulu-Natal. And people spoke about jobs, infrastructure in their communities. They spoke about entrepreneurship, businesses, safety, the crime problem that they face in their communities. Focus on those things. Even on my X account, if I were Herman Mashaba, on my X account, the things I would be tweeting or posting there would be about policy related and inspirational stories, right? Policy related. And make sure he must punch hard on the ANC in a very calm, smart, intelligent way, right? Must punch them hard and be clear that you have failed our people. Outline why. A, B, C, D. These are the policy areas, right, where you have failed. Highlight the human suffering that we see in the country, joblessness amongst young people. Do it in a very well measured way, right? I'm telling you, he would get a lot of even more, way more following now from both. In fact, from across all the groups in the country, ethnic groups, religions, and so on. If he were to focus on that, he would really make a huge difference. He's got the right profile. He's got the right. People see him as very much brave. I do see that in him too. I just think that going along with communists and socialists is not helpful, right? To align with the guys of the EFF, the far left, Stalinist, racist, Leninist um, party, and others, and to be obsessed with race and to create the narrative that it's apartheid this, it's apartheid that, the National Party, not helpful. It then becomes a typical black politician we have seen over the past 30 years of our democracy, right? That has been the case where you have politicians, black politicians, they love this thing of perpetuating victimhood. Black politicians in South Africa, they love this thing of perpetuating victimhood. It was the apartheid system. What. That's not helpful, folks. Because even when you ask people on the ground, they're not going to say all that stuff. People on the ground in poorer communities, they're not going to say that. I've just told you what it is that they say. So Mashaba, he is the right man. He is supposed to be taking over from the ANC. He is the man who should be taking over from the ANC as the ANC is on its way out, folks. It's a matter of when, and it should be sooner. And then there has to be somebody who has to lead South Africa. And Mr. Mashaba has that right. It's politics. He could still change his ways, in my view. Um, but look, he doesn't have to listen to me. I'm quite a young guy, so I'm young to advise someone like him. This is just me about a a person I do admire. I think his background is exactly what I would like to see in South Africa. Um, you know, a person who comes from nowhere, works hard, right, makes critical, very important decisions. He has spoken about his the importance of marriage, right? Why he got married to Connie and how the marriage itself contributed to his success. Yes, Herman Mashaba has spoken about that, folks. How the marriage, getting married to Connie, was helpful, you know, in his life, in his success. And those are the stories. That's what we need to hear from Black politicians. Then to go around singing, jumping around, abambe, all this nonsense, kill the poor and all this stuff. Uh, Cut that off, folks. We need a new chapter. And such rhetoric will never bring a new chapter in our country. Right. It won't bring a new chapter. We need figures like Mr. Mashaba, who has this great, profile, background, has written books, very important, right? Telling stories on his success. Those are the people. Those are the Black people we need moving South Africa forward. The Black people who perpetuate victimhood, those Black people are not going to be helpful to South Africa, right? I have said this before. Black South Africans, they account for more than 80% of the population. They have been in charge for 30 years of the institutions that run South Africa, right? So whatever is happening, the idea that we can keep blaming other groups or other civilizations, it's a waste. It reflects bad on us as Black people. It's a bad reflection. There's nothing nice about that. There's nothing nice about that. There isn't anything nice about that. It's Phumlani M. Majozi. I am back in South Africa this weekend. I do have a website, phumlanimajozi.com. I'm on X at Phumlani M. Majozi. I'm on Facebook, Phumlani M. Majozi, my Facebook page. I'm on Instagram at Phumlani M. Majozi. I'm on LinkedIn, Phumlani M. Majozi. I'm on TikTok at Phumlani M. Majozi. Remember to get yourself a copy of my book, Lessons from Past Heroes, and learn about the people who worked so hard to improve their lives at a very difficult time. If they could do it back then, what can stop us now? What can stop us now? What can stop us now, folks? Nothing can stop us now. There is nothing. We live in a democracy. We are responsible for our progress. We are responsible for holding our leaders to account. We'll chat soon.